Okay, hey Josh, thanks for getting this in. And I'm gonna lasso your contact sheets first. See if we can get through these. By the way, your file forced me to finally actually update my Adobe software, so thank you for making me do that. However, it did take me half an hour. So, looks like you more or less you followed the instructions in regard to going out into the landscape and using your camera to shoot images of the landscape, and I'm assuming you used your light meter as well. However, there's a few problems with the way that you interpreted the assignment. And that's understandable. And, you know, for some reason for this assignment, I don't have any. Usually I give big clarification notes on the assignment. I didn't give any for this one. So what we wanted you to do was to go out and shoot basically 10 different views of the landscape at a distance, but shoot it twice. Once with your exposure settings from incident mode, and once with your exposure settings from reflective mode. And then you would move, like change your angle of view, meter again in reflective, use those settings, shoot, meter again in incident, use those settings, shoot, change your angle of view, move, do something else, you know, and then so do that 10 times for the landscape at a distance, and then repeat that process 10 times for subject matter that's much closer. So it looks like really what you struggled with was the understanding that you were supposed to move part. Because this is all the same photo, right? It's the same image, just with different exposure settings. Same image with different exposure settings. But that's fine. It's good when this happens, actually, because it forces me to write more clarification notes at the beginning of an assignment. So don't worry about it right now. And I'm sorry that I didn't clear that up for you better in the emails that we exchanged. And so the next thing that I would have liked to have seen is I would have liked to have seen each image in your contact sheet labeled with your exposure settings, and then whether or not it was incident or reflective. Oh, and of course, I didn't put that as a clarification note in there either. Huh. Well, I really dropped the ball on that, but don't worry, because next week I've got lots of clarification notes. So then in this case, and you won't be docked for this because I neglected to put that note in there, but in this case, it's difficult for me to tell which scenes you used incident for and which scenes you used reflective for. I don't know, I can't tell because I don't have any notes on it. I don't have your exposure settings, so I can't give you any feedback based on your exposure settings either. So there's very little that I can tell you about your contact sheets. I know that sounds disappointing, you just probably hate me right now, but part of it is my fault for not giving clearer clarification notes. Okay, so here are your 4 finals. So thank you for giving me exactly 4 finals. I really appreciate it when people follow editing instructions. Because for the case of turning in your final assignment, I am effectively the client. And I say, you know, in the assignment, I want exactly 4 images, and I want you to tell me what the best images are, because I don't have time for that, because I'm the client, right, and I'm so busy. So you follow those instructions, great. And also, I want to say that the color and the exposure in your final images is beautiful. These are really nice. You know, I tend to get really bored with verdant green scenes, and I'm finding the contrast between the blue of the sky and this really warm green, and then this dead cedar it looks like here, really visually stimulating. I actually really enjoy that. Because I'm not easy to please with these super green scenes. Not at all. But like I said, I can't give you any feedback on your use of your light meter, because I don't know what mode you're shooting in with either scene, so I could have used more information there. It does say here in your write-up that you felt that incident was most accurate, and that's what we would expect. As long as you took incident meter readings in the quality of light that you were shooting, that we would expect your incident meter readings to be more accurate. Because in reflective mode, of course, your meter is giving you exposure setting suggestions that will yield a medium gray out of whatever subject matter you are pointing it at. And depending on, you know, if you were pointing it here, for instance, in this dark area, you would end up having a very overexposed image. If you were pointing it at the sky, you would have a very underexposed image. So you can see how that logic would work out. So yes, you would have experienced that incident readings were more accurate. Unless, for instance, you decided to meter in the deep shade and you were shooting in the sun. Then you would have had an inaccurate reading. Of course, another option that you could have used for shooting in the landscape would have been to meter both the shady areas and the sunny areas. and then average the two exposure values together and come up with a happy medium. You could have done that as well, but your exposures look pretty good. You probably could have given maybe one stop more of exposure in most of them, and then we would have detail in the shadows too, because this is actually pretty. Let me turn my monitor so I can see better. Yeah, we don't have any detail in the shadows right now, so we could have had about, I mean, really just a slight tweak, just one more stop of exposure. I don't have your settings, so I can't give you a recommendation of which exposure setting you could have tweaked for the best visual effects. So next time, when you turn in an assignment, make sure that you, and I'll make sure to put it in the notes next time also, make sure that you label each image in your contact sheet and then your final enlarged images with your exposure settings and then any other pertinent notes. I hope that makes sense. Other than that, these look great. This is a lovely scene. Like I said, the colors are just fantastic in your images. And I would say all the compositions for what you're working with are actually pretty good. You have this nice bowing effect here. And then these fuller images of the close-ups of this bush, the live and the dead bush together, are actually pretty interesting in regard to texture and then this sort of trickling light, this light that trickles through. Okay, thanks Josh. I look forward to seeing you in the next assignment.